Welcome to AVP's Orville Podcast Chats. Hope you enjoy the show. My name is AVP, your host and writer and fellow fan and fellow Orville sister. Stay tuned for the show. Episode 2. Old wounds. Can they seem fresh and new despite being called old? Hi guys, this is AVP back with another episode for you guys. Now, as many of you know, that the Orville series pilot is also dubbed Old Wounds. Now we're going to dig a little deeper on this episode today. Now, here's the thing. We're left wondering, how can old wounds seem new, but still be old? Let's dig a little deeper on this, shall we? Captain Ed Mercer, who is played by Seth MacFarlane, is given the commission of the Orville ship, but he's lacking one key ingredient to make his crew complete. He is missing a commanding officer, and he receives word from Admiral Halsey, who is played wonderfully by Victor Garborough, and Victor, or Admiral Halsey, informs Ed that he will give him the information on who is going to be the new commanding officer to serve alongside Ed. Ed eventually goes about his routine, eventually inspects his entire crew, and then the devastating news, the bombshell drops. The new commanding officer will be none other than Kelly Grayson, the ex-wife of Ed Mercer, who cheated on him just a year prior and now is his divorced ex-wife. Oh boy, not pretty at all. But here's the thing. While these wounds are old to Ed, they're new and fresh to many of the crew members and even us audience who are watching this on the screens. We don't know the full backstory, but even for Ed himself, these are new, fresh wounds. Because here's the thing, he has not seen his ex-wife in over a year's time. He has pushed aside all those hurt feelings. He's pushed aside that betrayal. He's pushed aside the denial. He's pushed aside the hatred and even the rejection that he has felt, or even any types of love he has felt for Kelly, his ex. He's pushed all that aside, all within a year's time. And here it is a year later, he's supposed to work with her, alongside her, and act as if nothing is wrong. Here's the thing. These wounds that we're dealing with can still feel fresh and new, even though they're old. Let me explain something. When we deal with hurts, they're like layers of an onion. The further we peel back those layers, the deeper they are involved with each other. Because we don't know how extensive something is. We may think of it as a simple little task. We may think nothing of something that gave us a flashback. But when we dig a little deeper, that flashback did cause us pain. That memory did cause us back something that we were called triggering. It triggered something deep within us to make us think, you know what, I'm still hurt, I'm still betrayed, I'm still in pain, I'm still in anguish. Ed is no different from this. You and I would be the same way as if we were to deal with someone in our past who had caused us hurt and pain, and then have to be reunited with that. All that would be flooding back into our minds, saying, oh, now I remember why I call you my ex. Now I remember why I don't want to be around you. Now I remember why I rejected you. All that keeps flooding in for Ed at those moments. So, like I said, for Ed it's old, but it's also new all at the same time. So with those kind of experiences that we're being around, we can use those hurts and past hurts to either make us better individuals or bitter. Know those two words, bitter and better. Bitter is spelled B-I-T-T-E-R. Better is spelled B-E-T-T-E-R. Notice that one difference in the two words? The E and the I. Those two key letters change everything. That basically means, in my own words, that we can either choose to be bitter because of what's going on in ourselves, or we can be better from it. Ed at first obviously rejects the whole idea of saying, Why do I want to be around somebody that's hurt me? Why do I want to be around somebody that betrayed me? Why do I want to be around the person that rejected me? The person that even cheated on me? But here's the thing. Ed has to come to that conclusion on his own. No one else can make those decisions for him. In these kind of cases, we have to make the decisions for ourselves to determine, will we make ourselves stronger and stay and look into the future? Or are we going to look to the past and stay stuck in that rut and never move forward? Think about it. You can be better or you can be bitter. The choice is totally up to us. I think Ed and Kelly eventually learned to love and respect each other because they've never had to work alongside each other as in depth as they had before. Ed has always been out of the picture and Kelly was always left pushed to the sidelines. But to be with each other day in and day out and in very extreme circumstances, everything from fighting an alien to even being kidnapping or even dealing with some heart-wrenching situations such as a gender change of a baby of an alien race. They have to deal with all these heart-wrenching things together, and they've never had to deal with these kind of things that they would have never was otherwise. Ed's always been, well, I had a busy day at work, but it doesn't go into details. Now he can't just say, well, yeah, I had a busy day at work. She's right there alongside him. She sees what's happening. She's sitting right beside of him in the commander's chair. She can't just turn it off. He can't just turn it off. And if he has any feelings for her, well, that comes when it comes. But like I said, Ed had to choose to move past that old wound of her betrayal and everything she did to him in order to start a fresh chapter in his life. Because of that, he can move past those sarcastic remarks that he makes to some of the alien creatures that they made, saying, oh yeah, you need a backstabber in the back. I know a good person. And he points to Kelly. I'm obviously paraphrasing, but you can get what I'm saying. Ed does not want to be around her. He wants to make everyone else not like her. He wants everybody to think he's the good guy, she's the bad guy. You get the gist of what I'm saying. So if Ed can eventually move past all of that hurt that he went through, of a betrayal, a cheating scandal, a divorce, eventually Ed can move past that and eventually start a new chapter with her. And it sort of becomes like a joke between the writers and even the crew, kind of wondering, is Ed and Kelly going to stay together? Or are they going to be separated? Or who knows? We never know from one episode to the next. That's the thing that's so cool about this Orville series, that sometimes we're saying, okay, it looks like they're going to get together, but wait, there's a twist. No, they're not. Or wait, yes, maybe they will. Maybe there is hope. So what I'm trying to say is, even though the episode is called Old Wounds, some of these old wounds do come flooding back in fresh new ways. Because Ed had not seen his ex-wife in over a year, like I said, and those wounds came back to him in a fresh new way. Because he didn't know what she was going to be like. He didn't know if she had changed. She didn't know if he had changed. They didn't know what had happened in that year's time. All they knew is that they had not seen each other, and here it is, everything keeps flooding back. Oh, you cheated on me. Oh, you're the backstabber. Or you're the one that was the workaholic. You were the one that was away from me all the time. And now you're in my life and I gotta work with you day in and day out. That takes enormous courage for Ed and Kelly both to say, you know what, I'm gonna set aside my differences with this person and eventually start a new chapter with that person. Now, that's not always the case for all of us. We don't always have a chance to make things anew with somebody new in our past, because we never know what's going to happen from moment to moment. If we get a chance to start a new relationship, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I know I myself have tried giving new chances to people in my past, and sometimes it's pulled off and sometimes not so much. But like I'm saying, you've got to make sure you're willing to do that kind of thing. You've got to be vulnerable and say, you know what, I'm going to open up my heart, I'm going to open up my emotions and see what happens. Sometimes we can hit a home run with it. Sometimes we can succeed. Sometimes we might fail so miserably and think, you know what, let me just hang my head in shame and say, I'm never going to try again. But that's the thing that's so cool about the Orville series. All this happens with the whole scenario of seeing Kelly and Ed reenacting with each other, wondering, well, you were in my past before, but now you're in my present, and maybe even in my future. Am I willing to open up those wounds again? Am I willing to start again with you? I don't know. And here's the thing. Kelly had to say to the Planetary Union, Admiral Halsey specifically, saying, I want a chance. Let me start anew. Let me show to Ed I'm not the same person that cheated on him. I'm willing to begin anew. I'm willing to begin a new chapter in my life. Ed himself had to take a chance too to determine, do I want to open myself up to that again? Do I want to be around somebody that had backstabbed me? Somebody that had hurt me so badly before? Ed eventually does decide to forgive her. Ed eventually does decide to open up to her and start sharing with her. And you see him move from all that betrayal, all that hurt, all that sarcasm, where he's eventually saying, okay, let's work together. Like when they come up with the idea together on how to defeat the new Krill that are obviously their enemies in the background waiting to attack. They have to work together very, very quickly and decide together what they're going to do to defeat these enemies. They work quickly and it pulls off great. They're able to save the day, save the ship, save the new friends that they met, and it goes great. Now, are we always going to be successful with our new endeavors and new chapters? No, absolutely not. There's going to be times when we're going to flop and we're going to fail miserably, but that's part of the risk. Like I said, you can either make your past better and move on with it and say, I'm going to start anew, or you can be bitter and let that past hold you back from so much that you could grow from, so much that you could better yourself from, so much that you could start maybe a better relationship with someone. Who knows? Maybe because Kelly has opened up herself, and Ed himself too, has opened themselves up to these fresh new things together, they can start a new chapter and start a new closeness. Because here's the thing. This is my personal theory now. I believe Gordon Malloy had something to do with Ed and Kelly meeting each other. And Gordon had obviously not seen Kelly since before the divorce. And he also knew the backstory about what had happened with Kelly and Ed. Ed obviously confided in Gordon, told him what happened. But one thing that Gordon was missing, he didn't know Kelly's side of the story. That's what anybody knows, truly, that there's always at least 3 parts to any story. There's the 2 parties involved stories, and there's also the truth somewhere in between. One of the things I learned when I was in high school as being a school peer mediator, I had to learn to find the balance, to listen to the 2 sides of the story and find a balance between the 2 to find out a reasonable, acceptable solution that was pleasing to both parties. Does it mean one party won and the other one lost? Absolutely not. Does that mean that both parties reached a compromise? Sometimes. Sometimes we had to reach a whole different solution altogether that we had not originally thought of. So if Ed can move forward, Kelly can move forward, I think we can move forward too. Yes, these old wounds can be old, but they can also be fresh and new as a new piece of paper. Like I said, they were new for our audience members. They were new for the crew members to be around that because they didn't know the whole story. But they were also Ed for those involved. Because, like I said, Ed hadn't seen her in a year. She hadn't seen Ed in a year. And so much came flooding back, I'm sure, back into both of their minds to see the other one again saying, oh, it's you. And he had to decide and take the risk to say, you know what, I want to work with you or I don't want to work with you. Now, we're not always given those opportunities. No, obviously not. But we have to be willing to say, you know what, let me take that risk. Sometimes it's not wise to take the risk. But if you think you can take those risks and be pleased with the results that you've done, go for it. If you cannot take the risk and still be pleased with the results, then that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that either. You yourself have to decide what you're comfortable with doing. No one else can make that choice for you. Ed had to decide Am I going to let Kelly still work with me? Am I willing to be her commanding officer and have her side by side? Well, as you can see, the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. We see that Ed did make the decision to say, you know what? Welcome to the Orville, Kelly. Welcome on board, and I would be honored to have you serve as my commanding officer. I would be honored to have you be my commander. And she had to say thank you, or she could have said no thank you. She chose to say, yes, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to accept your offer, and I'm going to work with you day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, even through the good times and the bad. And even though we're left guessing episode by episode if they're going to get back together permanently, or maybe not so permanently, it's good to know that Ed was able to move past that old wound of the pain, the betrayal, everything that happened between him and Kelly. And she herself had to move past and say, okay, let's start anew. Let's start a fresh chapter. Let's begin anew. Let's put these old wounds aside. Let's put aside the new wounds that we're going through and start a fresh new chapter with nothing holding us back, nothing but the future. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode so much. I really enjoyed discussing it. The next episode, hopefully, which will be a teaser for the next one, hopefully I will be discussing about the lasting impression that Orville has had on me and so many others of us in this amazing community, because let's face it, we come from all over the world, everywhere from the United States to even places overseas such as Europe, including Scotland, England, New Zealand, France, wherever. We're all over the world. And the Orville series has left an lasting impression for so many of us. We come from all sorts of walks of life, so many different backgrounds, but there's one thing that ties us all together. It's a little series called Orville. So, look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode, and hope you guys enjoyed that little teaser about what's awaiting us for the next episode. And this is your host, Orville sister, fan, and friend, AVP, signing off. Thank you so much for checking out this podcast, AVP's Podcast Chats. I will see you guys on the next one, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember, don't let your old wounds hold you back. Let your wounds make you a better, stronger individual that can grow from their past and move forward to the future. That's not being held back, not being restrained, not letting anything hurt them. Saying, you know what? Let me start anew. Let me start afresh and keep moving forward. You guys take care, and you be blessed always. Have a good rest of your day, and I will see you guys on the next episode of this Orville Podcast Chats. See you around. Bye!